Hello, this is Debbie, and this is Light Up Your Worth podcast. I'm so excited that you are joining me. My guest today, as we film this live, so excited, the first live podcast episode, is I have my friend Presley Yarrow, and she is a conscious love specialist and the creator of the Love Awakening Method. So her mission really is to break down the exact steps it takes for women to release their negative subconscious beliefs to find a thriving relationship and long-lasting love. So she's been able to travel all over the globe, which is so fabulous. She's been in one of my favorite countries, Thailand, Hawaii, Dubai, and she's just worked with hundreds of women around the world, really helping them as their coach, they're a clinical therapist and a hypnotherapist. So her goal is to move women into a space of letting go, cultivating self-love, and calling it a relationship where conscious love comes pouring in. Welcome, my friend.
Thank you so much for that introduction. It's so great to be here.
I know, this is so fun. The first live one. And so it's going to be, it's going to be, who knows, hopefully the dogs aren't going to bark too much. And we'll know if anybody comes into the house, right? Well, welcome. You are, people are probably thinking, what in the world is a conscious love coach?
I know, I get that all the time, right?
What is that, right?
What does it mean? What does conscious love mean? Well, it's really interesting. I feel like everyone has their own definitions, and I'm sure that if you type in conscious love, you're going to find different definitions. But for me, conscious love really starts with yourself. So it's all about building this wholeness within you. So then when you meet someone, the two of you come together as whole individuals and you come and you co-create. And you're very aware, you understand, you accept your traumas and triggers, and it becomes so, so powerful. Love is already a massively energetic word, right? Mm-hmm. Imagine bringing consciousness to that love and how powerful that can really be. So to me, that's what conscious love is.
Oh, I love that definition. I think it's really powerful because this audience here listening is spiritual women. Primarily that's what the stats are showing. I know there's a few guys out there, so I'm sure you want conscious love as well. And being aware of it. I think for myself, when you say conscious love, I think of all of the examples, right, that we have that are not conscious loves. And the thought when you were explaining it was I got the image of, remember Tom Cruise in the movie where he comes in at the end of the movie and is like, you complete me. And when I think of conscious love, is it Jerry Maguire, right? I think of conscious love, I think it's the exact opposite of that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's exactly what it is, right? Because we're not looking for anyone to complete us. We're not looking for someone as a need. We're looking for someone as a want to add to our already incredible lives, right? To add that spice into that dish, right? Mm-hmm. That we love, that dish of life. So I am happy, I am fulfilled, and I am whole within myself. And I'm ready to call in a relationship and a person that equally feels the same. And then we can live our lives filling our own cups, and then it also overpouring, right? Overpouring. Mm-hmm. And that's really what we want.
Yeah, the whole notion.
What we talked about is really, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead. There's a delay. Sorry. Go ahead.
Well, it's just funny how we had a conversation before we came on live, right? How there are almost two different steps into this. There's preparing yourself for a conscious relationship. And then there's when you enter into the conscious relationship. This is a whole other ball game in itself.
Oh my gosh, yes. Right. Oh my gosh, it's a whole other level of conscious work together, co-creating that relationship after. So you work with primarily, do you work in the before with women and then afterwards, or in it with couples, or how, what is?
That's a really good question, actually. So I would say primarily my client base are women who are looking to call in a conscious relationship. I do have a few individuals that are in a relationship right now, but like we said, is, healing, growth, awareness, mindfulness, all of these things are really important when trying to foster and find love. So even if you're in a relationship and you want to grow in that love, then you need to grow within yourself, right? So even joining the Love Awakening method and coming into the program is really going to help you with that. And it really is going to enhance you as an individual and your relationship as a whole.
So let's talk about what does that look like when you think, oh, well, I'm sure there's somebody going, well, there's nothing I need to go work on. I just need to go meet somebody, right? Like how many people consciously go and think about a relationship? I myself have done work in this area. And so I have my own thoughts, but if they just think I just haven't met the right person,
Mm.
I just haven't met the right person. I keep attracting these people who ghost me, or I think that they invite me and they start sharing all these places they want to take me, and then I don't hear from them.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, you're going to hear this typical phrase, which I cannot stand and I don't necessarily agree with. Okay. Now, there may
Mhm.
be some people who will maybe type under the comments. I don't know. But, it talks about the idea and the notion of like, you can't love anyone unless you love yourself. Now, I disagree with that. I believe that you can fall in love with anyone and anyone can fall in love with you, and you can get a date and that person get a date and vice versa. And you can choose to be in any relationship you want. What I believe is where conscious love comes in is you can only meet someone at the depth that you have met yourself. So what does that mean? That means that when you say you are attracting the wrong people, when you get yourself in the same situations over and over again, this is a mirror, my friend. This is where we need to sit. We need to analyze, what is it that we're attracting? Why do we feel like we are attracted? Because I think, one of the biggest aspects of healing is that we need to take responsibility for our lives. We need to take responsibility, which sucks sometimes because I know that we've had traumas. I know that we've had triggers. I know that we were brought up in perhaps, in our childhood, it was difficult, but healing is taking the responsibility and moving forward with the action to really enhance your growth and you as an individual. So my answer to what you're saying is simply this: it's really a mirror to sit back and analyze and say, what am I attracting? Why am I attracted to this? And what can I do to work on it so that I can call in healthy, conscious love?
Mm, I really like that. I have found that to be true myself, and I'm sure there's listeners here who are like, but I don't want to work at myself. It's, somebody, you know, date A was always doing this, and date B is doing this, and date C was doing this, or partners, or somebody that they dated for a minute or a month. You're able to then even help them see that these are all actually the same type of person, people who are not available emotionally.
Absolutely. There's a common thread and a common theme, right?
Mhm.
And so you really, by doing the work and by doing the healing, is really diving into those. And also, at the end of the day, we put ourselves in situations unconsciously in order to gain mastery, right? So
Mhm.
what does that mean? It means that what happened, or what did you have to go through as a child? What did you go without? what was so difficult, or what trauma and trigger do you have, and how does that impact the relationship choices or the men that are emotionally unavailable? Where is that link? Right? There are so many links, and that's the importance of healing, and that's the importance of doing the work. If you want a successful, healthy relationship, then you need to come back to yourself. You need to dive into your stuff, right? You need to, again, fill your cup before you say, I want someone to fill the cup for me.
I think that's a really big thing. I think we were raised, I'm a little bit older than you. And I know but we were all raised on Disney, right? Like Cinderella, who's going to come save me? And we might voice it out loud. Oh, nobody's going to save me. I got this. But what you're talking about is there are stuff that we were influenced by these movies, especially in the US, and Canada, the whole North American society. We were so influenced by the Cinderellas, or even something as Pocahontas, right? I mean, all of these society norms that we've just grown up listening to. So is that something that you commonly will uncover in the work that you're doing, that we might all have some of that? Are they going to come save me and change my life, like
It's
instantaneously? I'm a princess.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I find most of it derives from this passion, right? This constant up and down. Because if we talk about, norms, or we talk about what we've seen, right? In all of these films, it's so dramatic. Everything is so dramatic, and you need to have butterflies, and there's just unbelievable amounts of passion, and it's so fiery, right?
Mhm.
Well, that's a trauma response. These are trauma bonds. These are things that we had seen and we discovered when we were younger. So, at the very beginning, people come to me because they want a relationship. But as they move through the program, as they move through the Love Awakening method, they start to see that actually, like, I don't need a relationship. What I need to do is I need to look into me. I need to look into really what I want in life, the direction that I want to go, and who am I really? What are
Mhm.
my values? There's so much depth into that, because when you can truly know yourself as an individual, then you're really ready to look and seek for something that matches you, as opposed to something that is a trauma bond or something that you're trying to master unconsciously. So I think all of these things really kind of combine into one, right?
Mhm.
Societal norms and expectations, our childhood, right? And trying to work through all of that, because healing itself is messy and it's hard, right? It really is.
Yes.
And it takes time. And so, I keep saying to people over and over, have compassion for yourself. It's okay. It takes one day at a time, but just think about how powerful it is once you get to this place where you feel whole, and then you're able to meet someone who is also whole.
Yeah, that's really powerful. Being whole is before you step out there. So last year I guess it's been a year now that I was divorced. It's been over a year. And so I've been focusing inward, right, on my own reflections, as I'm sure there's more than one of us who got divorced from 2020. I think there was a lot of relationships that actually really were tested, and some made it and some didn't. And really brought it to the forefront of the status of their relationships. So, what if you find yourself in that role of, well, what does whole look like if you've come
Mm.
off of a relationship, right? Like what wouldn't we do? um,
Mm.
of what people are seeing for themselves. Because honestly, I've seen at my age, I've seen mid 50s here, is that I've seen a lot of people that get off even in the whole dating, 20s, 30s, 40s, they're dating, and then it ends. And then before you can blink, they've started to date somebody else. And I've always wondered, like, they didn't even to me, this is outsider. I didn't mean to judge, but I'm sure I was judging. Like, can you catch your breath? Can you give yourself a couple weeks or a month, or like you, that process, that it does take time.
Right. And I feel like it's different for everyone, right? So I really can't answer that question for like people as a whole. I think everyone has their own process. But what I really do believe when we say that we're whole, after coming out of a relationship, maybe it was, 2 months, maybe it was 6 months, maybe it was 5 years, like who knows? Time, like time is up to you, right? And it doesn't really matter how long it's been. It matters really how you feel, right? But at the end of the day, the being whole bit to me is when you are ready to get back out there, that you establish boundaries for yourself, what you accept and what you will not accept, because you've learned from this last relationship, right? Understanding what your process is. So, I'll give you an example where, I've been working with a woman for, quite some time now. And, her process, something will happen and it takes her 3 days to just sit down and analyze and really decide how she wants to respond. Then I have another client, right, who likes to do it right away. Everyone is just very different in how they do things. And it comes to this as well. So I think at the end of the day, it's just more or less establishing the boundaries for yourself, knowing your process, and again, I'll keep saying this, like holding compassion for yourself, because that's so important, and accept where you're at, right? This doesn't mean you slip in a pile of contempt when things aren't going well. You still know that you are enough. You still know that you are worthy, but at this point in time, like it hurts. It doesn't feel good. And you don't feel good right now. And that's fine. And then finding your own way to move through that.
Yeah, that's pretty important. Self-compassion. It's giving ourselves grace, allowing ourselves to go through the process. I know, November and December were pretty crazy energetically for all the energetic folks listening. There was a lot of energy shifted around. And I think, today we're January 18th, and it's just still starting to wind down here in January. And then we're coming for another wave, right? Like we had our wolf moon last night in Capricorn. And I know like this much, right? Like of it, but I know enough to know that, with all of the energies and how that all fits into our own healing process, right? Like, and just being aware of how those hit. And what I found, what you're saying too, is the acceptance of, is that in understanding our own triggers, like, does that help with understanding what your own boundaries are? And then, but how do you set boundaries without understanding your own values?
It all goes hand in hand, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like a domino effect. Once you start working on the other, right, then it tops into that one and tops into that one and tops into that one. So, I think to kind of answer that is, I truly believe that, self-acceptance is recognizing that you have strengths, but you also have weaknesses, right? Recognizing that we are perfectly imperfect beings. And that is what really makes us whole, is knowing that we're perfectly imperfect, knowing that we have traumas and triggers, and your partner will too, right? And that's why we're saying even entering into a conscious relationship and taking that next level is, another enhancing growth and another level of growth, right? So I think that the acceptance just truly comes at really looking at yourself in every single way and every single facet.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm single, and I'm thinking, wow, I wonder why I'm single. At some point, I think a lot of women ask themselves that, why am I single? Especially if your friends are like, oh, you're so good, Presley. Like, how did you come to this point to want to coach people through this?
Oh, well, this has just come from all of my challenging, difficult, unhealthy relationships and unhealthy patterns. If I'm being very honest, I read this book, and it was called Women Who Love Too Much by Robin
Mm,
Norwood. This was probably the biggest turning point. Now, before that period, okay, I was doing a lot of work. I was introduced to healing. I was introduced to kind of the wellness world. I was getting my hypnosis certification. I was working at a detox center. I started learning about meditation, but then ended up getting myself in a really unhealthy relationship. That ended terribly. And I was thinking to myself, what the heck, Presley? Like you have this awareness. Why are you getting into this relationship? Why does this keep happening to you? And I read this book, and it was the most triggering thing I have ever read. I wanted to rip out every page. I wanted to send this woman an email. I wanted to throw the book across the room because it essentially said to me that this is me. This is my stuff and my traumas and my triggers and the choices that I was making in the men that I was choosing. And I was like, no way, that can't be it. It's definitely them. It's so them. It's not me. But it sucks to say. And I know that people are gonna be like, no, how dare you say this? But at the end of the day, it's us, right? We choose the life that we want to live. We make the choices in our lives that lead us to where we are today, right? So choosing these type of men, that's a choice. Deciding that we want to be with these emotionally unavailable men, wanting to be in these unhealthy relationships, that's a choice. So you have to ask yourself, where is that coming from? So then I had to dig even deeper into my family stuff, even deeper into the relationships that my parents had with one another. Right. Then after I did all of that digging, I was like, I'm not dating for a year. I'm going to become a hermit, and I am just going to sit and I'm just going to be. And I really had to like break these cycles and break these patterns. And then finally, I remember I was back in Canada. So I was back in Canada, and I had sat down and I said to myself, this is the first time I've ever said this. I am ready for a healthy relationship. I wrote this down. I'm ready for a healthy relationship. And then 2 months later, I had met my partner. Now I did all this other work as well, where I did the manifestation and calling him in and writing everything out. But I was so focused on calling in something that was healthy because I felt like I was ready to also honor that person at the same time. And I was also in a space where I didn't need anyone. I wanted someone.
Oh, I got goosebumps when you put that. I am ready.
Yeah, it was
Total on goosebumps. And something I just heard or read just yesterday or the last couple days was explaining goosebumps as your ancestors too.
oh,
I had never
wow.
heard that. And so I was like, wow, that was pretty powerful. I mean, I got full on all the way down goosebumps.
Love it.
I could see how you called him in because I see your pictures on social media. Not only is he a high quality man, he's really good looking. Everybody
Is it?
listening, like, oh my gosh, he
Hey,
is
don't tell him
like,
that. Don't tell him that.
he's beautiful. But so are you. So of course you would attract somebody, who is just as beautiful as you are, inside out. That high quality
Thank you.
that
But
we're
I
talking about.
also think it's really important, right? I had called this relationship in, but this also meant that when we're talking about our healing, and we've said this before, is that it becomes this next level, right? So your trauma will come to the forefront when a good person loves you. And we have had to go through a really intense journey together, right? Nothing is perfect, right? It's beautiful, it's great, and it's filled with commitment and loyalty and compassion, right? And companionship. But it's also dealing with your traumas and triggers as a whole. Now, if you're whole as individuals, that's great, but that still doesn't mean that there isn't going to be difficulty, right? There still doesn't mean there isn't going to be healing. There's always going to be healing and growth. And if you think how difficult your healing journey is, imagine when you bring two people together that are going through a healing journey and have triggers and traumas. So, I think to go back earlier, what we were talking about, like the whole romanticizing relationships and being saved and, having all this passion, it's so much deeper than that.
Mhm.
So much deeper than that, and so much more fulfilling than that. When you can understand yourself and that person understands themselves, and you can have conversations about this trigger that you had based off of this thing that they did, and they have this understanding to go, okay, I understand where that's come from. I'm really going to work on that. Like, that's so powerful. So powerful.
That is really powerful. I was having a conversation over the weekend with a man I dated. I date men, and many, many years ago, maybe 8, 9 years ago, a wonderful man, but he was actually on the cusp of trying to figure out whether he wanted to date men or women. And it came out, like, we got in after, I don't know how long we dated, 7 months, I think 7 or 8 months or something. And it was really we're in a healthy space, right? We were very aware of just asking questions and listening to figure out different triggers, and both from long-term relationships for each of us. And so in this discovery process, we came to a point where we had a disagreement, and after even thinking about it, it wasn't some big old screaming thing, but we decided that he really wasn't in the space to be in a relationship yet. So we had a very cordial breakup. And as he went through that process of discovering that for himself, we became really good friends. Like, we're
Mm.
super close. And what we were talking about, fast forward, he's married now to his perfect partner. And he is somebody that I talk to frequently as I go through life transitions. And I bring him in, and because he has a nickname, and is that he has so many of those elements of being able to fully, like, um bring in all parts of yourself. So when you're thinking about who you're going to be, who you're becoming on your journey, that you're able to share that, and that depth of those conversations
Mm,
are so powerful. And I don't think you
yeah.
can have those kind of conversations with just anybody. I think it's talking about this being so conscious of understanding that when you talk about, the whole passion, I mean, yeah, you're going to have some passion, obviously, but that it's not all that. And the more
Like
important things.
roller coaster.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I think again, like that whole connection and that whole depth, and I'm sure that you totally understand this as well. I feel like the further along in your process, right, you kind of notice the smaller your groups become and the more intimate they become, because you get into such deep conversations, and you become very authentic, you become very real. And so, you bring people into kind of your vortex that are equally that. And so, again, that just goes to show the power of the relationship and the love bit and the conscious love bit, right? To get yourself to a place where you're fully good being you. And I'm not saying that you can't have days where you don't feel like crap, because that happens,
Yeah.
right? That's
Uh-huh.
fine. That's so realistic, right? But at the end of the day, again, it's not, falling in that puddle of contempt. It's, you're still enough, you're still worthy, but you just are having a crappy day, and that's fine. Um, but really being able to share yourself, all of you, is, and I keep saying powerful, but it's powerful, it's deep, it's intimate, right? It's vulnerability, it's real, it's raw. And who doesn't want that in their life?
Right? Who does not want that? Oh, oh my gosh. Who doesn't want that? As somebody had recently said, the whole yumminess of it all, right? I don't know if you heard her
I
her
like that.
podcast. She was just on,
Yummy.
Renee was just on a couple podcasts ago. Oh my gosh. Yeah, yummy. The whole yummy thing. Because I think when I hear you talk about this acceptance and this compassion and really understanding your traumas and your triggers, this all is understanding your own worth and self-love.
Yep, that's exactly it. that is the foundation, right? You've got self-love as the foundation. And then branching out, you have this self-acceptance and this self-trust and this self-compassion. And all of these things really form together to create this beautiful tree, right? Of self-love. It's all
Mhm.
self-love. And it all comes together. And that's exactly what it is at the end of the day. And like even with the love awakening method, this is the process. The process is we sit and we let go of these subconscious beliefs. We work through these beliefs. We work to understand our traumas and triggers, to get into a place of acceptance, of wholeness, of love, to then saying, I feel good about me and I'm ready to call in this relationship because I know who I am, I know what I want, and I know what I'm willing to accept and what I won't.
Yeah, that's really powerful because when you're in the relationship or you go out on a date and something happens, you already understand how you're going to respond because
Abs-
you've cleared out what's acceptable and what's not acceptable.
Absolutely. And I think it also goes back to perhaps like you're into this date and then you maybe don't get a call back or you don't go out on this date again, or this person says, no, like you're not for me, that you are filled within yourself, you're whole within yourself. And you're like, okay, this is not about me and that's okay. And now I'm going to move forward and find someone else. So I feel like there's also a little bit of that as well. And then if you're on a date and this person is kind of doing these things that were big no's for you, you're not going to go out on that date again. Absolutely not, because you're not going to accept that. Right. And so it kind of goes hand in hand.
Yeah, that's so powerful. That's a really vicious cycle for, I think, for women to get into. If you've been dating and you go out on a date and you think that because they don't like you back, or, I mean, that you thought you'd really hit it off, you felt connected, maybe you got on a couple times, maybe you sleep with them, right? And, or you get emotionally, you get start to get emotionally attached, and then you think it's your rejection. And when you're
Right.
whole, it's
And it doesn't mean you're not going to feel rejected, right?
mhm.
Because very, very natural to feel that rejection, but we don't sit in that rejection for a long period of time. We don't turn it into suffering. At first, it's painful, but we don't turn it into suffering.
We're not going to get stuck there once
Exactly.
you understand your own self-worth and just not the right person for you. Next. Wow. So for anybody listening now, if you had a question or two or a tip, how would they realize for themselves if they're, I want to say whole, because that's really a big, huge thing, right? Am I whole? But how can they like, how can they figure out for themselves? Maybe they've gone out and they've been on this cycle. How would they know for themselves? Like, do I need to do this work?
Ooh. Okay. So my throat.
Oh,
Oh my gosh. You know what? I think when it comes to healing, I don't know what happened to my throat. Um, I think when it comes to healing, you are going to know when you're ready. This is a process. And if you are, I don't know what has happened to my
yeah, do you have any
throat.
water?
What has gone on with my throat? Mm. Okay. I think it's a little bit better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, healing is really on your timeline. Are
Mm.
you ready for this? Are you ready to dig into your stuff? Are you ready to hold compassion for yourself? I'm laughing at my throat. I have no idea
What just happened?
my gosh. So yeah, I mean, I think if you're asking yourself that question, you are ready to jump into it at the end of the day. I feel like when you have sat down and said, am I whole? Do I love myself? Why do I keep attracting this type of man? Then I think that you're ready. You just got to jump in and do it.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy.
No, I think sometimes they think that everything is rainbows and butterflies, and I mean, some days are, right? But what you say about the whole looking in the mirror, looking at your own reflections, it all comes back to each of us on whatever path we're doing or whatever we're trying to improve or develop ourselves on. Being aware of being out of the story and stepping up. And I think that's what's so powerful about having coaches, is that you're able to, they take you out of the story, the nitty-gritty details that you're going to tell your friends, and they're going to be, oh, there she goes again with that pattern, and nobody's going to see it. They're going to tell you.
Right. Right. And like that's what I love about coaching so much, is that you're in this space where you can externally process. Then you get asked questions that have you dive a little bit deeper. And these are kind of questions that are very difficult for you to kind of get to yourself. And so it's nice to have someone as an outside source to kind of help you navigate that space, help you navigate these patterns, figure out what action steps you can take that's best for you. And I think that that's kind of really the power of coaching. Let's look at our stuff, dive into it, and then kind of take the action to move forward and to make the change and the growth.
Yeah. I know when we were looking to schedule us talking, I was talking about Valentine's Day coming up, right? Like there's no pressure. Can you imagine being on a first date or two, or dating somebody for like a week or two, and then there's this big old pressure, right?
Yeah.
So for the guy, right? For the guy or the girl, and you're like, I normally don't see him on Tuesdays, but why would I see him this Tuesday?
Yeah.
Do I expect things? Talk about a triggering Hallmark day for so many people.
That's the pressure.
No pressure.
Yeah.
So I know that was part of it, because I wanted people to be able to have a resource, a solution, right, of what you offer, so that if they're thinking, how are those Valentine's days? What triggers am I doing? Do I need to work with a coach to start figuring out how I'm going to come and dig into? I don't even know what that work is. And so I know we've highlighted it, right? Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And that's the thing, right? Not a lot of people know what it consists of, and you don't need to know. That's the thing. I really believe that you want to focus on your desire. What is your desire? Desire is you want to get into a relationship. Okay, that's great. You can get into a relationship. How are we going to go about doing this? Well, this is what we're looking at ourselves, right? And look, there are so many different healing modalities. There's so many ways that you can go about your healing process, right, to get to this space. But the biggest thing is we need to go back, unfortunately, into the past to look at how that has shaped you moving forward, to look how that's shaped your thoughts, beliefs, your value system, right? The choices that you're making in your partners, so that you don't have to do that anymore. So you can let go of that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then again, how do I accept myself? How do I love myself? There's so many different ways that you can do that, right? In the Love Awakening method, we incorporate a lot of journaling, a lot of analyzing, a lot of journal prompts, as well as audio sessions and meditations and workbooks and things where you can sit and you can do the work. Because here's the thing, I think it's really important to balance the subconscious work with the conscious work. So let's do the subconscious work. Let's work on these beliefs. Let's work in all of this stuff that's been ingrained in us, work through that, and then take the action consciously, i.e. the journaling, i.e. the affirmations. You can also say meditation as well for both, and really put that action in so that you can get to this space that you want, that desire, that relationship.
I love that. And I really believe in that type of approach, with working on the conscious and the unconscious and taking actions. And so it sounds like a really wonderful program, probably something I might need Once I'm ready
And you're
get back out there, right? As a
that's
single, woman
important.
again. Mhm.
Right. Is like when you are ready, this is, I don't like to, I don't like to make it sound like it doesn't take a lot of work because it does take work, right? I'm not going to lie, it does take work. And so it's like everyone, I want people to be ready for that. I'm ready to take this on. I'm ready to get into my stuff. I'm ready to really, truly call in a healthy relationship.
Oh, it's beautiful. I love this. I'm so glad you're here, Presley. I really think that there's this can this our chatting and you talking about the love awakening method could really be super beneficial for somebody who's thinking about, a couple weeks from now, 4 weeks, 3 weeks from now, I think it is, right? With Valentine's Day, right? It's a super triggering day for a lot of people, whether they've had good days or fabulous past in the past, and maybe the person is no longer around or they have never had a really good day because of not understanding something about themselves. And so I think it's important that people have a resource or somebody that they know, that one thing that nobody wants to talk about, right? In this work.
Absolutely. Yeah. And like the realness and like, again, the difficulties and the stuff that's going to come up, right? Like, again, it goes back to that like sunshine lollipops. People want to talk about the sunshine lollipops, but that's not real life. So, you know what? If you feel like you're struggling, if you feel like, the 14th is going to be really difficult for you and you're asking yourself these questions, then I feel like you're ready. So if you're ready, just send me a DM or whatever, and we can get talking. One thing I would say is you can actually do my resource section. So PresleyYarrow.com/resources. And there's different audios, there's different meditations. There's also a mini training on how to break free from dysfunctional relationship patterns. So you can definitely go check that out.
Oh, that's great. I'll put that in the show notes too, and it'll be um it'll be there. Now, how else can people reach you on? I know you're on social. You want to share your social stuff?
Yeah, for sure. So you can go to Love Thrives with Presley. I personally, I just love contacting, discussing, chatting with people. So send me a message if you want to chat. Send me a message if you have any questions. I'm usually on there quite a bit. So you can just hit that follow button and yeah, just kind of watch out for my stuff. And like I said, any questions, please just send me a message. And I definitely want to chat with you.
Yeah. She's really wonderful to chat with. She has this such positive vibe. I love it.
It'll be a long conversation. We'll talk a lot.
Yeah. Great. Well, thank you for being here today and just really sharing so many bits of wisdom, you know, um, and all the women and the men who needed to hear, about what conscious love is and really how we're all so held. It's all about us and how we present it out. And so I love how your program is there to really help people. And I hope somebody who's listening is going to realize that that's exactly what they need. So
Yeah. Thank you so much. I really
thanks. Thank you so much.